Hello everyone, my name is Ekemini. Today I will be taking you through the issue that I chose, which is addressing disruptive behavior in the classroom using an ecological approach. Okay, one might ask or want to know more about what a disruptive behavior is, especially in the classroom. Disruptive behavior is known as any behavior that interferes with learning. It could be from yelling, a child throwing tantrums, or anything that is out of the norm that is not following the sequence that's going on in the classroom that might lead to distraction could be considered to be a disruptive behavior. It typically has its own phase, as you could see with the diagram presented here on the PowerPoint to my left hand side. It has intensity and the time, just to show the process that a child might undergo while exhibiting the disruptive behavior. It usually starts off with the child being calm, and then it escalates to a trigger, which could be, either from home or something going on within the classroom, and the child just keeps it quiet. And the next minute it gets into an agitation phase, it starts to fidget and, start doing anything out of norm. And if it goes unnoticed, it accelerates. So it gets into the acceleration phase and then moves on to the peak phase, which is typically longer. Um, then it gets to this escalation phase, which an adult or the teacher in the classroom might interrupt the situation or try to calm the child down. And then the recovery phase, which is like going up and down like a mountain, as you could see the curve. When the child gets to the recovery phase, it's just typically to ask the child what the situation might have been, or trying to, get the child back to, on the same page with everyone. Um, the onset could be as early as first grade. So what I have found through the article that I reviewed by Chase, Rhodes, and Calum, 2002, I realized that the onset is starting from as early as first grade, could progress into later stages, meaning it could go into middle school, into high school, if it's not addressed properly or there's no intervention made available at this particular phase. It just progresses from this point on. For this particular slide, we will be looking into the developmental consideration on disruptive behavior. Disruptive behavior, when excessively displayed, can be considered to be a mental health diagnosis with subtypes of conduct behavior, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which is ADHD, and oppositional defiant disorder, ODD. Based on an article I also read titled The Role of Attachment in the Early Development of Disruptive Behavior Problems, the authors conducted a study, and based on the study, they used the attachment paradigm, and they found that a securely attached child is less likely to exhibit disruptive behavior than than unsecurely attached child. Lack of attention that's needed from the caregiver could lead to a display of disruptive behavior. Basically, children who are not too securely attached with their parent or to their parents or caregivers could try to seek that attention from another means, and in the process of seeking for attention they would elicit disruptive behaviors. All right, this slide deals with the multicultural consideration in disruptive behavior, the aspect or the role that culture plays in actually understanding this issue. I chose two factors: gender and uh, ethnic ethnicity. I read an article by Arcia Fernandez and Jacques, 2005,
They conducted a study with 62 Latina women who were professionals and well educated. Based on the outcome of this study, they all actually had children between the ages of 4 and 10. After the study, the outcome showed that this Latina women considered the display of disruptive behavior to be as a result of lack of discipline from them and also the children's caregiver. The reason why they considered to be a lack of discipline was because the children being tested, they were at normal developmental range and cognitively were at normal limits. Being that they elicit these behaviors, the women considered it to be deliberate and a way to seek attention and not based on other factors such as mental health, like a mental health disorder. When it comes to gender, I looked into a lot of journals, but I settled for two. And the first one, the title um, was Our Developmental Pathways in Disruptive Behavior, the same for boys and girls. So basically, the study conducted, uh, disruptive behavior patterns between boys and girls, and the outcome showed that boys are more likely to display disruptive behavior than girls, and the reason surrounding this theory is due to the fact that boys tend to be more aggressive from a very young age and energetic than girls. The adverse effect of this aggression or disruptive behavior in boys most likely leads to conduct disorder that I mentioned earlier as a subtype of disruptive behavior. This could also lead to delinquency at adolescent stage of life, of course, if not properly um, handled, or if any form of intervention being made or put in place, it just escalates from that point on. So boys, gender wise, boys tend to elicit more disruptive behaviors than girls. Also, I looked into the article titled "The Ration of Harsh and Permissive Discipline with Child Disruptive Behavior, sorry. Does child gender make a difference in an at-risk sample? So these authors actually looked into, the different type of parenting styles, and they too concluded that boys elicit more disruptive behaviors than girls. But theirs, of course, was based on parenting styles, which I found to be very interesting. When they looked, into the three types of parenting styles by Bermuda, the authoritative, the authoritarian, and the permissive, they 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 came up with a result that male children often deal with excessive discipline from parents, and this in turn makes them, becomes a trigger for them to display more disruptive behavior. The other aspect discussed was the lack of inconsistency. Basically, when a child displays a disruptive behavior and it's not being, there's no consequences, there's no form of discipline by a permissive type of parent, it could lead to you know, to more of that behavior being displayed. Permissive type of parenting and harsh discipline not consistently used, leads to more disruptive behavior in boys. So basically, if a child, especially the male child, does something and it's not corrected right away, they will continue doing it. One might ask, how important is the role of a school counselor or school counseling in disruptive behavior? It is very, very paramount. Again, based on my findings through research for this particular topic, counselors collaborate with teachers, community, and stakeholders. They also advocate for students who might be exhibiting these behaviors in the classroom. So this could be through individual counseling, just to address the particular behavior that is being elicited that is disruptive. Um, Individual counseling helps in providing a one-to-one attention to the child and assess the situation more in depth. Some use a stream-based approach and not focus solely on the negative behavior. So if a child is taken to the counselor, more so like, okay, this is what the child is doing. Some, school counselors, they don't actually, target the negative behavior head on, as far as, okay, reprimanding and, just trying to at most also injury, for lack of a better word, but just approaching it from a strength-based model. Okay, what are your strengths, even in the midst of that, the disruptive behavior, so that way they could actually get the cause, kind of like an ABC model, the antecedent, the behavior consequences kind of pattern, but to see, okay, what was the trigger, what led to this behavior, just not the fact that, this child just wanted to act this way, and, reinforce whatever their strength may be, and also, address the negative behavior. Counselors use response to intervention (RTI) to address the issue of disruptive behavior in the classroom. This is a part of the role of a school counselor in addressing disruptive behavior. So, the response to intervention is also in the textbook. I mean, chapter 1 actually discusses more on this. If you check page 21 of the textbook, you will see it. This response intervention has 3 tiers, as we know. It ranges from a less difficult to more severe. So that's the universal, secondary, and tertiary phase of it. Basically, as you go up the pyramid, it's just to better help children that needs the most help, providing services, intervention that will help them with whatever the challenge might be. Um, it's just a form of an accommodation. Also, it helps the student to better, be placed in the right setting too. Because sometimes, there are a lot of triggers that come about or that might trigger a child to elicit this behavior. So the school counselor would actually assess this and address it accordingly. So the role of school counseling in addressing disruptive behavior is very important. One might ask, how does disruptive behavior in the classroom, relate to a comprehensive school counseling program? It does. If you look into the ASCR model section A, which focuses on counselors' responsibility to students, it states in section A, point 6, and I quote, school counselors collaborate with all relevant stakeholders, including students, educators, and parents, when student assistance is needed, including the identification of early warning signs of student distress. So apparently, disruptive behavior is as a result of some form of distress. Um, Sometimes people might not see like that from the get go, but there's always a trigger. When you go back to the mountain kind of illustration I had at the earlier part of this slide, you could see how it starts off from a calm phase and then it goes into this whole trigger. So it comes from some form of distress. And this model of ASCA basically states the responsibility of us as, future counselors to the students to kind of identify what the early warning signs of a student distress might be and address it. So it fits just right into it's really relatable. Disruptive behavior in the classroom is very relatable to a comprehensive school counseling program. It's very important also for the school counselor to collaborate with both internal or external service providers, and all students are to receive services adequately respective of their behavioral or academic challenges. And this is what this model, ASCA model section addresses. Irrespective of the fact that the child might have disruptive behaviors, if the school cannot better provide adequate services, it's important for them to seek out for external resources or service providers that will best address that behavior, so that way the child's academic is not being jeopardized. So even when you look also in the text, page 21, when it talks about the different tiers, the first, the third, and the second and the third, sorry, you could actually see the different roles of counselor and how it fits into this model of a comprehensive school counseling. So that's basically how to approach it from a collaborative standpoint, from a standpoint that us as counselors or future counselors have to identify early warning signs of student distress so as to address whatever the situation the student might be facing. Ecological approach for disruptive behavior. I mean, the topics is addressing disruptive behavior in the classroom using ecological approach. So, I mean, when you look into it, it's just the way the classroom is being set up and how accommodating the environment might be to address disruptive behavior. You know, we have different students that go into the classroom and the environment matters a lot. Some people or some kids might just see a particular writing on the wall and it just could set them off as a trigger. It might be the sitting arrangement. So ecological approach is basically being aware of your environment and the classroom environment and how it affects this particular child that is disrupting the that is eliciting a disruptive behavior. So another way too is under the whole ecological approach is using positive remarks than negative remarks. It helps in decreasing the occurrence of disruptive behavior. A study conducted with 570 children from second to third grade of an elementary school was to examine how disruptive behavior will be best modified in the classroom. So the authors found that the use of a good behavior game which contained praise and no negative remarks to assess how much disruptive behavior occurred was a very good approach. So basically, they did a whole game that they put children into different categories. The ones that were getting negative remarks a whole lot, and the ones that were getting a good behavioral remarks. And the outcome showed that the children who were placed in the group that were getting praises and good reinforcement minimized the display of disruptive behavior. So it helps a lot. So this is just a part of an ecological approach that one could use in the classroom to decrease or minimize the display of disruptive behavior. Right before you is the reference page. You have American School Council Association. You have this article by Arcia E. Fernandez MC and Jacques M. 2005, Latina Mothers Characteristics of the Young Children with Disruptive Behaviors. Very, very interesting article to read. Also, you have here Gerd Chase. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Rhodes WA and Calum SG 2002. Why the prevention of aggressive disruptive behaviors in middle school must begin in elementary school. Just basically the progression of disruptive behaviors is not addressed at an earlier stage. The reference page continues here also with Greenberg MT, spells ML, and Dicklin M93, the role of attachment in the early development of disruptive behavior problems, and Gorman Smith B and Lauber R 2005 are developmental pathways in disruptive behavior, the same for girls and boys. Grotus T 2013, School Counselor Serving Students with Disruptive Behavior Disorder. Grumman DH and Holzen B 2011, Determining Responsiveness to School Counseling Interventions Using Behavioral Observations. All really resourceful articles that I drew from to kind of put this together. And this is the last reference page with Left Loaf G, Van Leah PAC, on Hina P, and Colpin H 2010, the role of teacher behavior management in the development of disruptive behaviors. You have parent J, Forehand R, Merchant NJ, Edwards MC, Cornersboro N, Long N, and Jones DJ. 2011, very numerous authors. They wrote The Relation of Harsh and Permissive Discipline with Child Disruptive Behaviors. Does child gender make a difference in an at-risk sample? I also pull from a textbook, Rosna R. 2003 textbook of adolescent psychiatry, and the link is there with available. Uh, this is stages SA and Kuros DR97, a meta-analysis of intervention to decrease disruptive behavior in public education. Last but not the least is the IRIS Center, Behavior and Classroom Management. The link is below. It's a very great resource for anyone going into the field of education, even counseling too. It has a lot of modules, vignettes, and resources one could use to better understand a particular topic or subject matter. And that's it. We've come to the end of this presentation. Thank you so much, classmates. Thank you, Dr. Walley, for taking time out to listen and going through this slides. I really appreciate it. If you have further questions for me regarding anything in particular or suggestion, comments, I'm always looking forward to learning from everyone. I really would appreciate the feedback one way or the other. And that's my email, ekemekere@yahoo.com. Once again, thank you and have a good day.